Hello, everybody. I'm here with Anne Marie, and I got a great, like 20, 30 minutes planned for us so that we could talk about some things that you guys who are just new, just getting licensed, should know about a couple different things. And I'm going to be doing this weekly, and we're going to have a lot more people on. So there's going to be more videos to come, and we're probably going to have more of Anne Marie as well. So without further ado, Anne Marie, please tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, how long you've been in the business, and just the FYI on you.
Okay, well, I am 4.5 years in the business. I am a second career person, so I spent 30 years in publishing, publishing sales, book publishing, the whole shebang. Um, I came from a very artsy, designy background, but also, heavily into sales as well. Publishing, as with every other industry in our world, is changing. So, the 30-year career ended abruptly, actually 2 days ago, 5 years ago, 2 days ago, and I had to find a new career. So, June of 2016, I started my journey in real estate. I do have family that are either developers, builders, contractors, real estate investors. So I had a little bit of knowledge, but enough to be dangerous. And got into the business. Started with Keller Williams out of Jackson, New Jersey, back in June of 16, and it's been one hell of a ride.
And here's the thing. I mean, you're laughing. One of the reasons why I want to bring someone like yourself on is because, and the reason why I wanted, people like yourself to be the voice of this is because I'm sure that everything that you just said resonates with so many of my, new students and agents who are just breaking into the business, especially with what's going on now with the pandemic and everything that's happening with lockdown and businesses and people looking for alternatives as far as where to go, what to do. I'm sure that the story that you just told, there's several people who are watching this video that are going to probably be like, that's me.
Yeah.
That's me, and I'm just either starting on this or I'm at a point where maybe I'm hitting a rut. So what I wanted to ask you, because you had an interesting, I asked you about a couple different topics that you wanted to talk about, and something that really kind of struck a chord with me that you said was something that you are passionate about is realtor etiquette, or real estate agent etiquette. That's something that I guess falls, not a lot of us know it. Not a lot of us know what we should be doing, shouldn't be doing. And I think especially when we first start getting into the business, kind of like I always related to this, my first time on a golf course, I didn't
Mhm.
know the etiquette, like the unspoken rules of what you don't do and what you do.
Yes.
So why don't you tell me a little bit about what you think new agents should know about real estate etiquette?
So there's a couple of baskets that this falls into. So the first basket, which was the one that struck me when I started, and again, I'm a little old school, so my approach to business in general is maybe a little old school, but I will say that without a shadow of a doubt, any realtor that I've had this conversation with has discovered that it is true. When you go in to see a client for the first time, or you're having a conversation, or even with a fellow agent, think about what you're wearing, what you look like, and how that presents you in a positive or negative vein. Um, there were a couple of stories and I will not ever name names, but I encountered situations where on a showing appointment, I would get a call from my seller. I had a listing right out of the gate, and my seller called me and was absolutely flipping out. And to clean up the conversation, she basically said, this woman came in looking like she had just been hookering all night. And I I said, "Oh, that's not good." And I knew who the realtor was. And then in another situation, we were in a meeting. I was actually interviewing an agent. That agent came in, and was almost as if the thought of getting dressed was secondary to the meeting that I was about to have with my broker and this agent.
Yeah.
And I literally, my mouth just hit the floor. And I later said to this agent, thank God it's us and not somebody else. Because if it was somebody else, you would have been walked out the door, never to hear from us again. I said, you can't just show up for a job interview. And that's how I look at real estate. That's how I look at when we meet buyers and sellers or other agents. It's a job interview. We have the same goal. We're trying to help somebody achieve their goal of purchasing real estate, and we're working together as agents to get those people to that end goal. And your presentation and how you come across is so important. And as a new agent, you don't learn that in real estate school. And more times than not, agents that are coming on are not people, if they're young, they're just coming out of college. So they don't have that real world business experience that a teacher, a nurse, a doc, whoever, blue collar, white collar, whatever, has. But it's also common sense. You're not going to sit there and swear at a listing appointment or out with another agent or whatever. Like that's not going to be your conversation. You're not going to talk like a sailor.
Right.
So it's all about how do you want people to remember you, I think is the best way of putting it. So that's one bucket. The other bucket has to do with how you handle the transaction. And the transaction piece is important because obviously you could get fined, lose your license, suspended, fired from an agency.
Sure.
And you have to know that there's certain etiquette. Like you're not gonna sit there and call an attorney up and curse him out. You're just not
right.
gonna do it.
You're not going to.
I'm gonna confess, I've done that. But you.
I love it.
But I have no filter, so sorry. So no, but the
reality,
I'm not encouraging the behavior, but there were circumstances behind it. I'm not justifying it, but there were circumstances behind it that I had to fiercely defend my client. And that's why that happened. And because it was compromising the relationship, the fiduciary between the attorney and the client, as well as my fiduciary to the client. So I don't take that lightly. So you're not going to curse out an attorney. You're not going to curse out another agent. You're not gonna, be like, oh, I've been doing this for 50 years. You're not going to do that because quite frankly, me personally, I don't want to hear it. Like, I don't care if you've been doing this for 5 weeks or 50 friggin' years. We have to figure out how to work together and get it done. And that's etiquette. That's having respect for one another. And that is something that I would say more times than not is there, thank God. But there are moments. And for new agents, I think that's really important.
And I think that, there's a couple takeaways, and I want to ask you kind of a follow-up question on the first bucket a little bit. Mm-hmm. But I think some of the takeaways that new agents should be getting is, number one, treat other people with respect, even when they're not going to treat you with respect. There's going to be moments like there's times when I have had that moment where I was like, okay, I need to calm myself down because they're getting me to a point where I am going to act unprofessional. And here's what I always say. This is my thought process. Mm-hmm. If my client was sitting right here next to me, would they be appalled or would they feel comfortable saying, okay, Stu's sticking up for me?
Yes.
So, and I think that's the best way. Like if I had to summarize bucket 2 is I would say there's advocation and then there's being a jerkazoid. you know? And the thing is this, if my client is sitting there saying, Stu, I'm so glad that you stuck up for me in that
Yeah.
situation, then I applied the right amount of pressure and the right amount of finesse in that situation. But if my client were to sit there and look at me and be like, uh, dude, like, why were you that adversarial to that person? And I think that that's some of the reasons that you always have to understand. I always take the feeling of, if my client was sitting here next to me, would they feel that I'm representing their best interest, or that I'm putting my interests above theirs? That I'm putting my sense of self-worth, or like the fact that I want to go in there and, I want to, twist the knife a little bit,
Yeah.
and I think that's, bucket two summarized in a great little kind of context. I think one of the questions that comes out of bucket one, though, for, like I said, for newer agents would be this, especially with the attire. What do you think a new agent, because I think that your perspective, especially when you put it in the context of a lot of people are coming out of this from, like, maybe they're starting younger now, especially with like HGTV coming on, like all these things, like real estate, I'd say 20 years ago wasn't a career that people went from high school and go, oh, I'm going to go be a real estate agent. But now it feels like with the Instagram, the social media, all these kinds of things, that people are realizing that this is a very viable career. So something that I think is really important, I think, is realizing that people are starting younger, so they do not have the business acumen that I think someone like yourself brings to the table.
Yeah.
Like, you understand how to conduct yourself in a corporate setting, whereas to someone might come to a office dressed in sweatpants and a t-shirt, as I sit here in a t-shirt. And what
I'm
happens,
only like this because I had an appointment before.
yeah, but what I think what I want to ask you, and I want to follow up with you, is this. How do you think a young professional just coming into the business, now keep in mind, they might not have the money to dip into, because they're dishing out a lot of money in real estate fees, in marketing, and all this kind of stuff. So what happens is, how would you think that someone should approach the business professional attire or the business casual, or how do you think they should approach that question? Because I get that asked a lot of me as to what I think they should do. And I'll give you my 2 cents in a little bit, but I'm curious to hear yours,
Well, I mean, thank goodness clothing isn't that you don't need to go to Brooks Brothers and buy a $600 suit, or I'm probably aging myself by using them, but whatever, or Nordstrom's, whatever the case. You don't have to spend a lot of money. I remember when I first started in the corporate world, and I can kind of relate it that way. When I started in the corporate world, my first job, I had to have a couple of nice tops and skirts and things like that. Thank God for Burlington Coat Factory and TJ Maxx and Goodwill and all these other great consignment stores and all these great places you can pick up. You just need basics. So for a woman, a couple of like very simple shell dresses and a couple of jackets, slacks. I love stretchy slacks. So stretchy slacks, they're so
absolutely.
And you get a couple of nice sweaters. You don't have to go nuts because you can mix and match everything. The thing with real estate now is when you're showing houses, most people don't get really dressed up. Like, I'll wear a pair of jeans, I'll wear a nice top, I'll wear a pair of nice boots or something, or a nice pair of flats or something. You don't have to get completely dolled up to go show a house. However, when you're first meeting that client or you're going on a listing appointment, you better look like you're showing up for your first interview with a corporate job or any job for that matter. Yeah. Because they're going to look at you and they want to know you're polished to some extent, because you can look polished in a pair of jeans and a t-shirt. I mean, it's all about presentation.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to spend less than a couple of $100, if that, and get a couple, like 5 easy pieces, 6 easy pieces, and you can mix and match.
And here's what I want to say. There's a couple of things that I think you pointed out that I really liked. And one of them is this. I like that you said that you could look polished in a jeans and a t-shirt, because here's what I'm going to tell you. I always tell people to be comfortable with what they wear. But there's also a point where you're professional as well. Like me, when I'm showing houses, even when I show up to a listing presentation, and again, this is me.
Mhm.
I show up, I have usually a Spider-Man t-shirt, a sports coat, jeans, and I have my red sneakers. And
Mhm.
that's me. And here's the thing, it looks like a polished thing. I don't come in there with the beard hanging down to here. I don't,
Mhm.
there's certain things that I do that I look polished, but what happens is I'm also comfortable and genuine with how I come across.
That's the key. You have to
That
be, you have
that's
to
it.
be you. You have to be you in what you wear. Like I'm not comfortable wearing, you know, the some of the outfits that I see younger
Oh,
kids wearing.
listen, yeah, you don't even
Like,
need to go
and
into detail. Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
too old for it. So it's, so I'm 54 years old. Like I'm too old for some of that stuff. But it works. Whatever makes you you is what. But you
that's
should always look professional.
yeah, and I think that you know what I mean. Here's what I'm going to tell you. I think that that really is the key. That's the kicker right there.
Mhm.
Is being you but still looking professional. I think that that's the balance that everyone has to kind of strike in
Yeah.
regards to how they're presenting themselves. Like I will tell you this, and I think that another important thing that I really want to tell people is you will never appease 100% of the people.
No.
There are people that clutch the pearls when I show up in a Spider-Man t-shirt. There are people who are like, why aren't you in a three-piece suit and tie? And then there's people that I would show up in a three-piece suit and tie where I would get client A, and then client B would be like, yeah, you look too
Yeah.
stuffy
Yeah.
for me. Yeah, like you look too buttoned up, I mean, so for me, what's funny is that when I first started in real estate, I started in 2003. It was a much different time.
Mhm.
I drove a BMW. I wore custom made suits. I was well put together. I had a collection of about like 200 ties. I had 17 of every shade. Okay, I had a collection of cufflinks. Listen, I was to the nines. But now, like I said, I drive a Toyota Prius.
Yeah.
I wear, my American Eagle jeans. I have my Allbirds sneakers that are machine washable. They're like my favorite go-to sneaker because I could literally be on a construction site. If I get all mud on them, I toss them in the car and I'm just like, that's it, boom, done. Go to the
Yeah.
next appointment. And I think also too, like I want to kind of point this out too. New agents always forget how to like prepare their car and get themselves set up and things like that. Like I see your eyes widening and you're
Yeah.
like, yes.
Because
Um,
you have to know, that's why, like, and one of the things I teach on here at the office is, one is when you're doing that preliminary conversation. So whether you're lead genning for listings or you're prepping for a buyer consult and you're getting, they find you and you're having conversation, you're going to know within the first minute, I say 30 seconds, but 30 seconds to a minute, who that person is. You're going to know their personality, you're going to know what they do, you're going to ask the right questions. So you're going to know before you even show up at their door what
right.
they're expecting, because you're going to be so whether it's the three-piece suit or, formal dress and pearls, or you can wear slacks and a Spider-Man t-shirt and your jacket,
Yeah.
it depends on, because I walked into listing appointments, same thing. Like, ma'am, like, what were you at a formal ball before? Like they bust chops. And then I'm like, believe
Yeah.
me, I have sweatpants in the car. I'm happy to go out there and throw them on, like hitting around, and then like breaks the ice like that. So you just, so you know your audience, you know who you're going to be dealing with. That's
Yeah.
beyond anything. An agent needs to know that before they walk in.
And I'll tell you this, something that strikes me is that I think that most of the people who get into real estate are people. So what happens is, just as you said, people could read, we should be able to read them within 30 seconds to a minute. Like I know when I'm getting on here and I'm talking to people and I'm talking to agents, I'm like, I know kind of how they're going to present themselves, how they're going to interact, things like that. Like, cause we're people, and especially you with your business acumen, your history, you could meet someone, you could be like, hey, you could have a conversation like that. I think what's important is, when we're speaking to new agents is to make sure that, a couple things that I think that they should take away as we wrap up is this. I think that they should take away that they should be genuine and professional. I think that those are the two most important things. And also, I think that in being genuine and professional, there's there are people that they are not going to hit a home run 100% of the time. I always tell people, I said, Babe Ruth was one of the greatest baseball players of all time. He had a 300 batting average. So he struck out seven times out of 10,
Yeah.
So, and he was one of the greatest. So what I always tell people is keep that in mind, and also with, bucket number two, I think that saying, hey, my agent, my client is sitting right here next to me. How would they feel that I'm advocating or being a jerk? And I think
Exactly. Treat
that's
others the way
super
you want to
important.
be treated is really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Treat others the way you want to be treated and be able to adjust accordingly, but yet keep it on the positive, because the minute it starts going south, all bets are off. I mean, my
Yeah.
partner says to me, for years drilled in my head, we're the calming force. We're the calming force. And we do. That's, as a new agent, you learn, it becomes learned, because you're automatically like, oh my gosh, you want to do everything right.
Yeah.
Just be there and just
You
listen.
know what? And I couldn't say it any better. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to wrap up the recording. So guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit that like button, hit subscribe, and we're going to have more of Anne Marie in the future. So if you do have a comment down below that you'd like to, ask Anne Marie, please feel free to do so. Or if there's another topic that you'd like to see us talk about, feel free to go ahead and do so. But I'm going to stop the recording right now. And thank you so much for watching, guys. Have a great one.